Looks like there could be a new frontrunner for the vacancy in the front office on Jersey Street. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and we're about a week removed from the Red Sox firing Chief Baseball Operator Chaim Bloom. And in that time span, there's already been about a million different names thrown out there as who his successor could possibly be. Everyone in the entire league has been mentioned at least once, but right now there is one guy whose name has been mentioned a lot more than everyone else, and it's for good reason too. Could this be the guy the Red Sox are possibly targeting to be the next CBO or GM or whatever you want to call it of the Boston Red Sox? That's what we're trying to figure out today. Today we are talking about who this guy is, why his name is gaining momentum, why people keep bringing him up. Plus, we're going to be talking about what this could look like on the Red Sox, what he could look like as the head of the Boston Red Sox, and we're going to be talking about what the possibility of this happening is, right? Whether or not this move is even possible. But before we get into that, just a heads up, we are going to be live tonight, Tuesday night instead of Wednesday night on this channel, right around 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be talking about all this front office stuff. We're going to be watching the Red Sox take on the Rangers, and we're going to be talking about what could be the biggest moves going into 2024. Talking about all that stuff live and in person tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you haven't been to one of these yet, there's only a couple left before the season ends, so I highly recommend coming to one again. That is tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. The person we are talking about today is none other than Mike Hazen, the current vice president and GM of the Arizona Diamondbacks. His name has been mentioned above all else when it comes to who the Red Sox could be targeting to take over the CBO position for this team. Now, a lot of people ask me on this channel, Corbin, why should we believe you, right? You have absolutely no idea what's going on in the front office, and you're absolutely right? You shouldn't believe me. I don't know what's going on, but that's why each one of these videos, I rely on sources who know much more than I do. And in this case, there are a couple of different ones that I want to highlight. The first is a report by Buster Olney of ESPN, who talked about how the Red Sox could be targeting Mike Hazen as their number one candidate to take over the role of Chaim Bloom. The other was on a podcast called Fair Territory by Ken Rosenthal, who's one of the most respected reporters in Major League Baseball. Tyler Milliken of Name Redacted asked Ken Rosenthal who he thinks is the number one target for the Red Sox when it comes to a replacement for Chaim Bloom, and his answer was exactly the same as Buster Olney. Ken Rosenthal also said Mike Hazen should be that guy, and it makes sense for a couple of different reasons. One, Mike Hazen is from Massachusetts. He was born and raised in Weymouth, Mass. It's right below Quincy, which is right below Boston, for those of you who may not know where that is. He went to high school around here, and he has a deep respect for this organization, and he grew up rooting for and admiring the Red Sox, right? This is a guy this is his hometown team. It makes sense that his name is mentioned when there's an opening for the Red Sox to especially be the chief baseball operator. Now, the other part of this and the other reason that Mike Hazen's name is being thrown out so quickly is because of the fact that he's actually spent a significant amount of time in the Red Sox organization already. He was originally hired in 2006 as a director of player development, then quickly moved up to VP of player development and scouting in 2011, then made another jump to vice president and assistant GM in 2012 under Ben Cherington. Again, another move to senior VP and assistant GM in 15, and finally in the same year in 2015, he was officially promoted to general manager of the Boston Red Sox under one Dave Dombrowski. And again, he has a deep respect for the Red Sox organization, and again, this is his hometown team. Just listen to how he talks about the Boston Red Sox when he became the GM of this team.
It's a privilege and an honor to work for the Boston Red Sox. It always has been since I joined 10 years ago. The organization is prestigious, successful, has history, a history that I'm proud of personally, one that I grew up in. From the days when I used to wake up and argue with my dad over who was better between Rice and Evans, that debate still rages on today, probably in between Rice and Evans.
That's a lot of time. That's essentially 10 years in this Red Sox organization. That immediately should give him a leg up on any other potential candidate, right? He understands the inner workings of the front office already. He has a relationship with ownership. It makes sense that his name is being thrown out. But on top of that, too, there's a lot to get excited about when we're talking about the history with Mike Hazen and the Boston Red Sox. Mike Hazen had the opportunity to not only learn under three types of approaches when it comes to running a front office, but he also saw what it took to win a World Series in a market like Boston. He was under Theo in 2007, and he was under Ben Cherington in 2013. On top of that, too, he got the beginnings of a Dave Dombrowski run, which led to a 2018 World Series as well. So not only does Mike Hazen have an understanding of how this front office operates and how this front office works, as well as a relationship with the ownership, but he was under three really great general managers, which led to two different World Series and an opportunity for Mike Hazen to simply understand what it takes to win in a market like Boston, which is a fantastic leg up on basically every other person involved in a potential candidate situation for a front office position for the Boston Red Sox, right? But what would a Mike Hazen leadership look like for the Boston Red Sox? And is any of this even possible? Is it possible to get Mike Hazen over to the Red Sox? I think when we're talking about what Mike Hazen could possibly look like as a chief baseball operator, as a GM, as a whatever they want to call it, leading the charge in this front office for the Red Sox, it's obvious to take a look at what he's done in Arizona. I think he's done a lot of really great things, right? The Arizona Diamondbacks have built up a fantastic young core of players headed by Zach Gallen and Corbin Carroll. Mike Hazen has been an integral part of getting those guys onto this team and supplementing those guys as well to make this team a legit contender in the AL West, which is one of the most difficult divisions in Major League Baseball. There's a couple of things that we need to look at here. The first being his successful trades. He's had a couple of really great successful trades. The biggest one, in my opinion, being trading Zach Gallen for Jazz Chisholm Jr. and solidifying a future ace for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He also got JD Martinez to the Arizona Diamondbacks for really not a whole lot in return. He sort of broke even on a trade for Ketel Marte, which included Gene Segura, Taijuan Walker, and Mitch Haniger going to the Seattle Mariners. This year, he got Gurriel and Monero for Dalton Varsho, which appears to have worked out really well. He added some key players at the deadline this year in Tommy Pham, who has worked out really well for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And on top of that, too, he's been able to successfully lock up young talent like Corbin Carroll, which could be key to understanding his philosophy going forward, right? Getting a guy locked up like Corbin Carroll early is exactly what you want the Red Sox to do right now. And a guy who's already done that could be pretty vital in terms of locking up this young Red Sox core for years to come. On top of that, too, he's had quotes before where he doesn't really care about the payroll of a team. He just wants to put together a winning team. And to me, that's a really important factor as well, because working in Arizona is much different than working in Boston, right? You have a much lower budget in Arizona than you do in Boston. And Mike Hazen obviously has not had the opportunity to spend big money like he would have in a market like Boston. How does that translate over? Well, again, he has that experience of seeing guys before him make big moves with the Boston Red Sox. And on top of that, too, he has that sort of mindset. He has that mindset of, look, if a guy's worth it, we're going to pay that money. And that's a big thing for me. Now, there are a couple of missteps by Mike Hazen over his time with the Arizona Diamondbacks. The biggest one, in my opinion, was the signing of Madison Bumgarner, right? Which clearly did not work out for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They DFA'd him with a lot of money still on the table. There are a couple trades that didn't exactly work out for the Diamondbacks either. The Paul Goldschmidt trade is the one that comes to mind for most people. Trading Zach Greinke after signing him is another one that comes to mind. But he's also always been accountable of those. He acknowledges and admits his mistakes publicly and then tries to fix them as well, which is another great sign if you're looking for a complete change in leadership for the Boston Red Sox. So when you're looking at who Mike Hazen could possibly be for the Red Sox, I think you're looking at a guy who extremely values the importance of a young, talented core, of a farm system, which is perfect, right? You want to have a guy who's not going to tear down this farm system and understands what it means to have a young, talented core within this Red Sox group. But it's also a guy who understands that, hey, look, if you want to genuinely improve this team, you're going to have to make some big moves, right? You're going to have to trade away a Gene Segura, a Mitch Haniger, guys who were pretty highly touted prospects for a guy like Ketel Marte. You're going to have to take a chance with a guy like Jazz Chisholm, who's going to bring you a Zach Gallen or something in return, right? This is a guy who understands that to make big moves, you have to spend big money, and I think that's a good thing for the Boston Red Sox. So when you're looking at what he could possibly look like, you're probably looking at a guy who understands the farm system, who understands that you have to take risk, and who understands that you have to spend big money, which again, should be exactly what the Red Sox are looking for. Now it comes down to what's the possibility of Mike Hazen actually coming to the Boston Red Sox, and that's a bit more of a tricky question because there are probably some roadblocks along the way. The first is everything that's happened with the Hazen family off the field, the tragedy that was involved in that. It might be difficult for Mike Hazen to want to pick up his family and move essentially across the country with everything that happened there, right? That's obviously number one, and I understand that. Everyone should understand that, right? It's always family first, right? It's never your job first, and that's totally understandable. Now, the other thing that could be holding Mike Hazen back is something that's already come up before. When the Red Sox were searching for the replacement for Dave Dombrowski, Mike Hazen's name came up once again. Mike Hazen used this rumor to leverage himself a new contract extension from the Arizona Diamondbacks. With this coming out pretty early on after Chaim Bloom's release, it's possible that Mike Hazen once again uses this opportunity to push the Arizona Diamondbacks to extend him further and allow him to continue to work in Arizona. Now, the other thing on top of that too, there are a couple more things that could be roadblocking Mike Hazen. One of them being security, right? The Red Sox over the last few years haven't been exactly the most secure front office job in all of baseball, right? They've essentially gone through 3 different GMs over the course of 12 years. And the problem with that, especially with Mike Hazen, is one, you're going to have to prove to someone, whoever comes in here, that this isn't a short-term possibility, that you're not serving a presidential term with the Red Sox, that you're here for the long haul. But 2, Mike Hazen's been a part of that already, right? Ben Cherington won a World Series and was ousted in 4 years. Dave Dombrowski, who he wasn't here to see get fired, but had a close relationship with as the GM of this team, probably understands what Dave Dombrowski went through. So it may be a bit more difficult of all people to convince Mike Hazen that the Red Sox are here and the Red Sox are going to give him longevity. So there are a lot of different factors here that could be roadblocking the Red Sox to getting to Mike Hazen. On top of that too, the Arizona Diamondbacks might not even grant permission to the Red Sox to interview Mike Hazen because he's still under contract. So there's a lot of ifs going the opposite way for the Red Sox, but there are a couple of ifs going towards the Red Sox. And I think what mostly comes down to is where Mike Hazen is from, right? He grew up in the Boston area. He grew up rooting for the Boston Red Sox, going to Red Sox games. He stayed 10 years in this organization. This organization clearly meant a lot to Mike Hazen. Is there that sort of twinge in the back of his head that despite all these other factors, you now have the opportunity to come back home, win a World Series with your hometown team, and bring the team that you grew up rooting for to the next level? That's got to be at least a little bit enticing to a guy like Mike Hazen. The other factor too is that the Red Sox have much deeper pockets than the Arizona Diamondbacks. And at the end of the day, right, money talks, and money talks real loud. If Mike Hazen gets a big old raise, big old promotion to run the Boston Red Sox, that might be enticing enough to get here. So it's sort of a mixed bag as to whether or not it's even possible to get Mike Hazen here. I think it ultimately comes down to, does he want the new challenge or does he want to stay and continue what he built in Arizona? And obviously, family's a massive part of that as well. So I think when it comes down to it, there's probably going to be a couple more guys like this that we talk about on this channel, right? There's probably going to be a couple more front runners as we get closer to who the Red Sox are actually going to sign. And we're probably going to have a couple of different conversations about a couple of different guys. But I will say this, Mike Hazen would be a fantastic choice for the Boston Red Sox. This is a guy who spent a decade here. This is a guy who won World Series here. This is a guy who has done a great job with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And this is a guy who appears to not be afraid to spend money when you need to spend money or take a big risk trade when you need to take a big risk trade. And that might be exactly what the Red Sox need right now. If I'm the Red Sox, this is my number one candidate as well. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think of all this? What do you think about the Mike Hazen rumors? What do you think about him coming to the Red Sox? What do you think he'd look like on the Red Sox? And what do you think the possibility of the Red Sox signing Mike Hazen is? In the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you tonight at 8 o'clock on this channel and in the red seats.